Morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today we're talking about becoming versus has been. And when thinking about this, it's really about identity. And the truth is, what we know about ourselves is all from the past. And so, what if we were to live into becoming instead of out of has been? So it should be an interesting conversation. And before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm not sure if we're live streaming or not. So if you can, we are. Hi, Rosalind, welcome, welcome. I so appreciate you chiming in, so I know that things are working. And welcome to, and also I love your contribution and the fact that you just keep me company here. You're like my partner in this. I really appreciate it. So welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today we're talking about becoming versus has been. Originally, I was thinking that I would title today's conversation identity, or who are you? But this is really more to the point. Everything, and this is kind of a revelation, it may be kind of a revelation. Everything that we know about ourselves is from the past. It's about everything we know about ourselves is what has been. We don't know who we are becoming. And I'm wondering, what would life be like if we could live into that becoming instead of the has been? So this conversation comes up as a result of a conversation with a client where they were saying, well, I'm this way, I'm that way. This is, essentially, this is who I am. And the thing about that, and actually I correct people frequently in the work that I do with them to say up until now. Up until now, this is who I've been. This is who I have known myself to be. The thing is, if we can allow ourselves to let go of those ideas of who we are, we can become more of what we came here to be. So these things about how we think we are can act as tremendous constraints. And we were talking about this in terms of physics, particle and wave. that if you try to track the location of an of an element, like an atom or an electron, if you try to identify its location, you can't get its velocity. And I was thinking about this, and it makes total sense. Why would you, if you're trying to find a location, you're trying to find a static value, of course you can't get velocity at the same time you can get location, of course. But and anyway, the thing is that when you're trying to apparently get, I don't want to get into physics, but the thing is, we we conceive of ourselves as entities, as this particle, so to speak, like a fixed thing, something that's static. But that's not the case. We're a process. We're really a wave. Life is a process. We are in constant motion and change. And it may be that those changes are narrowly perceptible. But part of the reason for that, I'm imagining, is that we're bringing who I've been, the has been, into the becoming. And we're taking the past, we're projecting it forward and stepping into that. And that is why we have this notion of a fixed identity. When we get curious about who we are, really, really, and start observing and noticing patterns, behaviors, without trying to come to a fixed resolution of what we are. Like the patterns are waves. If I say I am this, then all of a sudden we're becoming a particle. All of a sudden we're precipitating out of all the possibilities, and this is it. This is the fixed potential. But when we leave the has been behind and be here into what might be, there's unlimited possibility. And the other day we were talking about bucket list and creating dreams and possibilities. And by the way, if you are writing comments and I'm not responding, it's because I don't see them. You have to either go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page or the Enlightened World YouTube channel, and then I see the comments from there. Anyway, we were talking about bucket list as something to be calling us forward, cultivating our dreams, cultivating our vision, creating a compelling future that then draws us into that expression. And in the realm of manifesting, I think we're probably well versed in the notion that creating a pronounced emotional experience along with a visualization and intention, the emotion powers that vision. The emotion actually activates it. So when there's something that we desire, this is talking about the becoming, rather than saying I want this, and being in the longing up for it, by actually visualizing or talking ourselves through the experience of the having of it, the joy of it, the delight in it, the happy or elevated frequency of those feelings energizes that vision. And at the very least, so this was also interesting in another conversation with um, with someone talking about how part of them was afraid to be hopeful, or I know what it was. They said that they were skeptical of the positive thinking kind of thing, because what if they were thinking positive and then it didn't work out later? And then they'd be disappointed. And I said, and so instead of thinking positive, they'd rather just sort of think negative, and then they could be pleasantly surprised. I said, it's really interesting how people tend to do that, to say, well, if I think positive and then something unpleasant happens, that it invalidates the positive thinking. When we think negative and something positive happens, we don't let that invalidate the negative thinking. Why would we do it the other way around? Right? So if we engage in positive thinking and something negative happens, then at least we were having good feelings until that negative thing happened. And of course, we can go back and have good feelings again. So we're such funny creatures, right? But the notion of thinking positive versus thinking negative is very much about the becoming and the has been. If we've had trauma, if we've had challenges, those I'm just using the word negative. I don't know that I believe positive and negative feelings. We just sort of tend to characterize uncomfortable feelings as negative. But although I've had people that are moving into unfamiliar positive states and they're very uncomfortable, even though it's a positive state, and then they oftentimes want to go back to a less positive state because it's more comfortable. But anyway, I ran circles around myself just now, and I think I got a little confused. Now I've forgotten where I was going with this. The thought about discounting positivity. The positivity is kind of the becoming. It's what's possible. It's excitement, it's enthusiasm, it's hopefulness that's grounded hopefulness, not hopium, but wise hope. It's engaged. The has been, I mean, maybe we've been happy people too. And maybe there's something, actually, I've seen it work this way too, where somebody had pretty much most of their lives been a super go-getter and very positive and very active, kind of superwoman person. And then they started having pretty severe health challenges, and they had a very hard time reconciling, this isn't who I am. Who I am is this person that's energetic and able and whatever. And it was a very, very difficult challenge And there's a lot of suffering around just that contrast too. So it can work both ways. Welcome, Angie. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you join us this morning. We're talking about becoming versus has been. And the revelation, I don't know why it was a revelation, actually, but the revelation this morning that all we know about ourselves is what has been. And we assume a continuity into what's becoming. But, you know, if we allow ourselves to release the ideas of who we are, Angie says, hello, I love this topic. Thank you. You're so welcome. If we allow ourselves to release the ideas of who we are or who we've been, then we can step into something new. And Angie says, yes, let's allow what could be. And again, I really like this notion of the particle versus the wave, because when we start saying, I'm this way, I'm this way, I'm this way, we're stopping any kind of momentum. We're creating a static and fixed kind of things. However, we can notice patterns, and that's more of the wave. So there may be patterns that we can recognize, but it doesn't mean that that's who we will remain. Because even, I'm going back to the quantum physics thing, there are orbital probability fields for electrons. I mean, there used to be. I mean, I don't know if there still are, if that's still the concept, but when I learned about this, which was a long time ago, there are different orbital patterns of probability. And the quantum notion came from the fact that, or the notion that when more energy and more energy and more energy and more energy is added, it'll go from one probability state to a different probability state in a jump, not in a gradual way. And so just because there are detectable patterns that we may recognize in our lives, again, from what has been, it doesn't mean that that needs to continue, that is the becoming as well. So, you know, there's an illusion of safety in the continuity of things, for sure, or believing in the continuity of things, but things can be discontinuous. Angie says, of course, there's infinite possibilities. Where we focus grows. Exactly, exactly. So the thing that we don't generally realize when looking at ourselves and looking at the world, where we're generally focused is behind us. You know, we're kind of walking backwards into the future because we're looking at the past and walking into the future, pulling the past along with us. Either that, or we're taking the past and we're putting it out in front of us and walking into that, instead of recognizing that this is a new moment with infinite new possibilities. Angie says, not easy to stay in the believing in the trust. In the trust, we create our reality, LOL. We do. So when my life was miserable, and it was miserable for me, I experienced my life as miserable, is the probably better way to say it, for a good portion of my life, or a bad portion of my life, but a long portion of my life anyway. And when I first heard we create our own reality, I heard it as an indictment, like it's my fault that my life sucks, you know? And now as I understand things more deeply, I see where it's not a matter of my fault. It's because so many of our patterns are programmed patterns that we got programmed into without ever being conscious of those programs. I call them spells also. It's like we were under a spell that wasn't even ours, which is kind of most of what goes on here, is that we're conditioned to things that we just sort of as absorbed without awareness. And then we continue to generate experiences and perceptions and interpretations based on that programming. So where we are active. When I first heard it, as I said, I heard it as an indictment, like it's your fault your life sucks. And how I see it now is knowing that we have power to create the quality of our experience is an empowering thing rather than something that is blame. It's not about blame. It's about we have the power to transform that. We have the power to change that by changing the way we think, by changing what we identify with, by loosening our grip. So Angie says, haha. However, every portion does serve us to learn. Oh, yes. So I agree. And we get to kind of choose what we learn from things too. It's important. I keep saying it's important to curate our stories. The lessons that we learn, it's important to be aware of how we're integrating these things and what the lessons are, and if they're life affirming or not. Angie says, yes, learning our patterns and knowing we are capable of reprogramming self and our truths. 100%. 100%. So truth is a very interesting word, because we tend to believe that our beliefs are true. We tend to have a deep attachment to our beliefs as the reality. I know what's right. I know what's true. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed that I've had beliefs that have changed over time. I've had beliefs that changed as I got educated more or as I had more life experience. I've had many beliefs and perspectives change. And as a result, I hold them less rigorously than I used to. So Angie says, yes, choose what we take from each experience and to let go of the emotional side, knowing each situation serves us. Well, absolutely. I operate from, and again, this is my belief, or my operational foundation is life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. And that is a context or a container from which to operate that offers multitudes of possibilities, that offers a new way to be interacting when I recognize everything is serving me. But to your mention of let go of the emotional side also has something to teach us. There is emotional intelligence. And so when we have an emotional response to things, it's a communications, it's an opportunity for us to learn something. And one of the things that I say about emotion and challenges and circumstances that create upheaval is, if it's coming up to heal. And that's another perspective that I find really, really helpful. So I call these my hypotheses. I don't know the truth, but I know that working through these lenses makes life much more palatable for me than if, for instance, I believed everybody's out to get you, or we are born alone and die alone kind of idea, because we're, in my world anyway, we're all intimately interconnected. So Angie says, yes, by truths, I mean, if we are programmed to feel we are not worth happiness or worthy of, we can reprogram this or these messages. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Angie says, yes, emotions must be honored. Honored. True. LOL. So, what would life be if we lived into becoming instead of has been? What if we allow ourselves to be the becoming? Like that's who we are. We are the becoming, not the has been. And so many people identify with their past, that's who they are. The patterns may reach throughout the life, the wave, in other words, and also give us an opportunity to transform. So Angie says, we are here to live, choose. Absolutely. It is about choice. Even in the midst of pain and anguish, it is about choice. We get to choose how we interact with life. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And as always, it is such a deep privilege and pleasure to have the opportunity to connect and converse and muse on the meaning of life and more. So until next time.